The son of the lord of the city on the coast of the East China Sea, carrying a memory from another world, has opened a new chapter in the mainland since awakening the dual-body martial souls. Kylin True Dragon. Bimon Monster Soul Ring. Soul Bone. Dragon Dan. How many unknown landmarks are there on the mainland in the open sea? How many undiscovered opportunities are there? The young self-fighting spirit empire rises, vowing to turn the tide. Let this world submit to his feet and be the sole ruler. Keywords of the novel. The ultimate Tang clan's power to turn the waves without pop-ups, the ultimate Tang clan's power to turn the waves complete collection download, the latest chapter reading of the ultimate Tang clan's power to turn the waves. Chapter 1. Aolai City, Mu Qing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Aolai City, Mu Qing Doling Empire, Aolai City. Autumn is refreshing and sunny, with a refreshing sea breeze mixed with a faint fishy smell permeating the coastline. The half-red sun hanging high in the distance on the sea scatters bright sunlight onto the earth, dispelling the darkness and awakening the dormant life. The waves rise and fall, and as the morning mist dissipates, the sunlight penetrates the dust and splashes onto this majestic city standing by the sea, drawing a long black line. This is a very spectacular city, with a wall height of 80 meters alone. The wide wall is covered with traces of time, highlighting the marks of endless waves washing away. Steel gun emplacements shimmering with metallic luster stood on top of the city walls, with several teams of soldiers wearing uniform black armor patrolling back and forth with long guns. This is the easternmost city of the Doling Empire and an international metropolis with a level of prosperity comparable to the capital city of Lingdo. Aolai City. Aolai City is located by the sea, and since its name was born, people living here have always made a living by fishing. Thousands of years ago, this was just an inconspicuous and dilapidated town in the empire, with only a few hundred households frequently residing here. Aolai people make fishing their profession, raise their families, and nurture their descendants. But everything has undergone drastic changes since thousands of years ago. With the movement of the continental plates, the Sun and Moon continent collided with the Dolua continent, and the two huge continents merged into one. The Heavenly Soul Empire and the Star Luo Empire directly bordered the Sun and Moon continent. The vastly different cultures, customs, and cultures between the two regions, as well as the conflicts between empires, have escalated to an irreconcilable level over time. War broke out suddenly. That war enveloped almost all the forces and countries of the two continents, and no lucky one could escape it. Even the Doling Empire, which was located inland and had no connection with the Sun and Moon Empire, could not be spared. In the end, this war that lasted for decades, led by Shrek Academy and the Three Empires, combined with other major forces in Dolua, finally defeated the Sun and Moon continent, and from then on, the two continents were collectively known as Dolua continent. It was also from that day that, after realizing the power of soul masters, soul guides began to be vigorously developed by the unwilling Sun and Moon Empire, and rapidly expanded at an incredible speed. With the passage of time, there have been constant frictions along the borders between several major empires. Small battles cannot be completed, big battles cannot be fought, and the lives of those who died in border wars are incalculable. But the only exception is the Doling Empire. The Doling Empire is located inland, sandwiched between the Heavenly Soul Empire and the Star Luo Empire, without any territorial borders with the Sun and Moon Empire. Naturally, it does not need to bear the pressure of border wars. However, in contrast, the Doling Empire has always been in the weakest position among the major empires, and without war, there would be no pressure. In addition, the Doling Empire's research and emphasis on soul weapons are completely inferior to the other two countries, let alone the birthplace of the Sun and Moon Empire, which leads to a low overall strength of the Doling Empire and a very weak combat power with the title Doluo. Not only does it have a territory area that is only 2/3 of that of the Heavenly Soul Empire, but it is also significantly different from the most powerful Star Luo Empire among the three major empires. It does not even have half of its territory, and both the number of soul masters and resources are very scarce. Aolai City is a special existence. After the merger of two continents, this small town, which should have been backward, suddenly became outstanding in its geographical location. Due to the influence of mainland climate zones and changes in offshore monsoon climate, the fishing resources in Aolai City have always been very developed. As the easternmost city of the Doling Empire, its location is adjacent to 3 other countries, and it can trade and interact with other countries through maritime trade. As a result, after only a few decades of development after the war, this unknown small city rapidly grew, with extremely developed commercial trade, and the reputation of the Purple Dragon Duke Mu family gradually became well known. Until now, thousands of years have passed, and Aolai City has become recognized as the second largest city of the Doling Empire, even surpassing the Doling Empire's capital city, Lingdo City, in terms of prosperity and economic level. Aolai City has an excellent geographical location and developed fishing industry. More than 90% of the fishing resources on the mainland are salvaged from Aolai City and exported for sale, and then sold to other places and countries through a fleet. As a result, the maritime trade and port transportation in Aolai City have also begun to rise, bringing the city's economic level to the top of the Doling Empire's GDP list and maintaining it year-round. Even in terms of the level of urban prosperity, even the capital city of Lingdo cannot be compared to it, and only international metropolises like Shrek and Mingdu can be compared to it. This is a city so rich that it is unimaginable. The one in charge of this place is not the imperial family of the Doling Empire, but the hereditary duke of the Doling Empire. The Purple Dragon Duke Mu family. Thousands of years ago, the Tianmu Empire erupted into internal strife, with wars between the nobility and the royal family. Several major duchies remained dominant, and the royal family's strength was very weak. Seeing the decline in royal authority, several major duchies ultimately chose to rebel. In the end, the imperial city of the original Tianmu Empire, Tianmu City, was captured. The royal family of the Tianmu Empire, Shui family, fled to the south of the original Tianmu Empire and established their capital in Lingdo. From then on, the Tianmu Empire was divided into 2 parts, with the immediate plain and the Star Do Forest as the dividing line, separating the 2 countries. From then on, several principalities occupied the north of the Heavenly Do Empire, while the royal family and some nobles migrated to the south and established 2 empires, the Heavenly Soul and the Doling Spirit. In this rebellion, a commoner soul master named Mu played a decisive role in maintaining the royal family and ensuring their safe escape. Due to his tremendous contributions, he made great contributions in protecting the royal family, and his strength reached the level of Doluo. Therefore, after the establishment of the Doling Empire, the royal family felt his contribution and conferred upon him the hereditary duke and the fiefdom. Aolai City. From then on, Aolai City became the sole authority of the Mu family, even without the need to pay taxes every year. However, the relative royal family did not allocate funds to Aolai City, and the entire city's income was transferred to the Mu family treasury for self-sufficiency, with the right to establish private armies and fleets. This power is quite significant, but because the Mu family is only in charge of a city, when the territory was just sealed, Aolai City was still very backward and not as prosperous as it is now. Of course, the Doling Empire only sealed the size of a city due to the lessons learned from the previous rebellions of several principalities. Even if a private army was established, it would not have the ability to confront the entire royal family. But what no one expected was that a collision between the Sun and Moon continent brought about the rise of maritime trade and the popularity of soul weapons. The Mu family took this opportunity to rise, even though the number of troops under their command was not large. If combined with the Mu family's huge fleet at sea and the fact that the Mu family would have a Dolua title every few generations, their strength would still dominate the Doling Empire, and even their special status in a single round could be comparable to that of the White Tiger Duke of the Star Luo Empire. Until now, due to the special advantage of the Mu family's inheritance of martial souls in the maritime fishing industry, coupled with the growing strength of this family, it has become a rightful behemoth of the Doling Empire, managing all the export and fishing businesses of Aolai City, and the major commercial banks in the city need to pay taxes to the Mu family every year. In order to prevent Aolai City from being too far away from the control of the Doling Empire and to stabilize the powerful Mu family, the royal family basically intermarries with the Mu family every few generations, marrying the royal princess to the Mu family head of that generation, Aolai City head, and Purple Dragon Duke, to ensure peace of mind. Using bloodline to connect each other, if you don't want to fight, then there is only a marriage alliance. However, little do you know that this kind of thing has its advantages and disadvantages, because after years of marriage, the legitimate lineage of the Mu family has no less royal bloodline than the current princes and grandchildren. In the eastern district of Aolai City, near the seaside, there is a huge garden mansion. The mansion covers a large area and stands like a palace complex in the eastern district of Aolai City. A huge archway stands at the front of the palace complex, and the three gilded characters of the Duke's mansion stand on it, showcasing the noble identity of the owner here. Two majestic stone lions stand outside the door, majestic and domineering. Mu family mansion, city lord's mansion. Qingping paves the ground, and the garden is full of flowers. In this vast courtyard, rare and precious flowers can be seen everywhere. Glass tiles, purple gold lamps, and 4 copper beast furnaces are filled with blue smoke, which brings peace to the heart. Soul guiding lamps hang high on the eaves and roof, emitting white light. Pear blossom wooden lounge chairs are covered with a layer of soul beast fur, and the luxurious atmosphere envelopes every corner of this place. But in such an atmosphere, a child with a somewhat strange appearance sat quietly on the bench, propped up on his knees and looking up at the sky, staring blankly at the white clouds above his head. The child is not very old, looking at most 5 or 6 years old, but their hair is a rare white color. It is a type of short white hair like snow, with slightly messy strands covering their forehead. Under the sunlight above their heads, Yiye's hair shines brightly, with distinct strands that do not appear pale or gray, but rather have a different sense of vitality. However, the most eye-catching thing was his eyes, which were a pair of purple eyes, as deep as amethyst, paired with a childish pink carved jade face, all showcasing the outstanding charm of children. Although the boy was in a daze, his eyebrows were tightly furrowed, with a hint of melancholy between his eyes that did not belong to his age group. "Xiaoqing, what are you doing?" As the child was daydreaming, a gentle and graceful voice suddenly came from behind. "Why are you daydreaming alone here? What's wrong? Is there something on your mind?" Mu Qing turned his head to look at the graceful and delicate woman appearing behind him, and his bewildered eyes began to slowly focus. What caught the eye was a woman dressed in a gorgeous purple dress, with a very delicate and beautiful appearance. The woman's figure was very graceful, but her height was extremely tall. A tall figure close to 2 meters tall, but not strong enough, it has a special sense of fullness, especially a pair of long legs, even longer than Mu Qing's height, which is simply insane. Mu Qing's eyes wandered for a moment, looking at his mother's height almost equal to the sun in front of him, with her elegant appearance, and he felt a little roast to himself. How did my father, who is 1.7 meters tall, marry his mother, who is 2 meters tall, back then? Mu Qing cleared up his mood and whispered softly, "Mom, no, I'm just a little worried about tomorrow's awakening of my martial soul, and I don't know if my talent and martial soul are really good or not." Mu Qing chuckled, his expression slightly improved, and he forcefully regained some of his melancholy mood. The delicate woman elegantly lifted her slightly tight purple long skirt, showcasing her beautiful curves. Her tall figure, even when squatting down, was much taller than Mu Qingru's 6-year-old child this year. Xueyu crouched down and reached out to touch Mu Qing's white hair. "What do I think it is?" "Believe Mom, you will surely awaken a powerful martial soul." Mu Qing looked at his mother, who was already in her 30s, but had a beautiful face like a young girl. Xueyu is already in her 30s, but because she is a soul master and has a good husband, she takes good care of herself in her daily life. Time seems to have not lingered in her body for a moment. Looking at her mother's encouraging gaze, Mu Qing's expression did not waver at all, she just nodded and did not speak. Seems that her children are in a low mood, Xueyu hurriedly continues to say. Xiao Qing, my mother didn't cheat you. You see, my mother's martial spirit is a top-level martial spirit bone dragon. At the age of only 30, she has reached level 75, Spirit Saint. Your father Mu Yun is the current owner of the Mu family. He has the top inheritance of the Mu family's martial spirit, the Purple Eye Dragon King. In terms of the comprehensive attributes of the martial spirit, he is not even weaker than the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus of the same level. Your father has become a level 88 high-level soul duel at the age of 38. His talent is outstanding, and he will certainly become a title duel in the future, even the existence of a super duel. You are our two children, and everyone in the Soul Master world knows that a person's martial soul is basically inherited from their parents. Both your father and I have great talents, so you don't have to worry about your martial soul at all. Listening to his mother's gentle guidance, Mu Qing smiled and nodded. He wanted to say that he was not only worried about this, but there were some things he could only bury in his heart and was destined not to speak to anyone. Mu Qing pretended to have a happy expression on his face, and his overflowing smile infected the women around him, causing both of them to involuntarily smile. Okay Mom, thank you. I understand now. I want to take a nap and remember to call me when Dad comes home. I also need to exercise with Dad. Okay, then go ahead and I'll call you when your dad comes back. Xueyu didn't think much. Seeing her own son regain his happy appearance, she smiled and nodded, standing in place watching Mu Qing walk back to the room. Returning to the room and closing the door, Mu Qing's smiling face slowly disappeared. He reached out and scratched the white hair on his head in some distress, making the neat white hair a bit fluffy and messy. With a strong jump of his legs, he jumped onto the bed, and Mu Qing lay at the head of the bed, staring at the blue ceiling above his head and lost in thought. The memory that appeared in my mind, rebirth, time travel, or past life. He doesn't know if the memories in his mind are fake, nor does he know whether he has traveled through or awakened the memories of his past life, because the emotions in his memories are too real and too dreamy, just like he has regained his life, but there is an indescribable barrier between memory and reality, making him wake up like a dream. Mu Qing is more inclined towards the past life because this awakened memory is more similar to fusion rather than replacement. That was another world, and also a person named Mu Qing, who lived for nearly 30 years. Everything inside was very clear, as if experiencing experiences and time firsthand. It was equivalent to Mu Qing living an additional 30 years, and it was also 30 years in another world. This is what Mu Qing woke up this morning feeling a bit dazed and melancholic. As an authentic Blue Star person, how could it be that I haven't read novels by the Tang family mainland? Even though I only remember the first 3, it still leaves Mu Qing deeply moved. Surprisingly, it's this world. Martial soul, soul ring, soul bone, but my luck is quite good. Although I come from Doling, I have a high status. Mu Qing grinned at the corner of his mouth. His father was the Duke of Purple Dragon of this generation, and his mother was the beloved youngest daughter of the Emperor of this generation, the princess of the royal family. Both of them had great talents, which was even more impressive. He is still very satisfied with his current situation. Whether it is my background or the strength of my parents, it means that my starting point is very good. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Martial Soul Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Martial Soul Awakening. No matter what, these things won't be bad anyway. Whether they are true or false, as long as you awaken your martial soul and have enough talent, go to Shrek Academy to take a look. Mu Qing rubbed his head and then fell into thought. Hui Yuhao. If my memory doesn't go wrong, there really is this person, then the other person should be the same age as me. Because the next mainland Advanced Soul Master competition is about to start in a year, the venue for the next competition has been determined and announced. In the capital city of the Star Luo Empire, Star Luo City. And Tang Sanqing Shen was indeed a thing that happened 10,000 years ago. Hui Yuhao participated in the Advanced Soul Master competition across the continent for the first time at the age of less than 13. It seems that there are less than 7 years left until the next competition, and the two should be of the same age. And the possibility of having a talent for soul masters is close to 100%, the only difference lies in the level of innate soul power. After all, the Mu family has inherited martial souls, top-level beast martial souls, purple-eyed dragon king, and their own father is the current head of the family, a genuine high-level soul warrior. Although the purple-eyed dragon king is not like the blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex, it is also the top-level sub-dragon martial soul, especially in terms of spirit, it is the strongest dragon species among sub-dragons. Overall, the purple-eyed dragon king is no weaker than the red dragon martial soul of the Nine Treasures and Glass sect, and is the top-level sub-dragon species that can compete with the white tiger martial soul of the Star Luo Empire. And my mother is also a dragon-type martial soul, even surpassing my father in terms of martial soul quality. The Bone Dragon, like the Bone Dolua, one of the two major protectors of the 7 treasures of the Glass sect 10,000 years ago, is a martial soul. Not only is its physical strength not weaker than that of top-level beast martial souls, but its defense is also recognized as strong. It even involves the eerie ability of space, and in terms of strength, even the blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex can only be comparable. Although my mother came from the royal family and should have inherited the martial soul of the Snow family Swan, she awakened the powerful top-level martial soul of Bone Dragon when her martial soul awakened. If it weren't for my mother's innate soul power not being too high, probably only at level 7 or 8, her achievements at this time might even surpass those of my father. As the only son of both, my martial soul is definitely closely related to these two types of martial souls, so no matter which one awakens, I will not be weak. And because Aolai City is by the sea, and as the young master of the Mu family in Aolai City and the crown prince of the Duke's mansion, he has been eating the meat of sea soul beasts from childhood to adulthood. He uses a medicinal bath made from a mixture of precious herbs for bathing, which can strengthen his foundation and strengthen his foundation. Millennium bluefin tuna, century-old abalone, thousands of years old octopus, hundreds of years old red magic shrimp, and so on, have gone from snacks to big meals. As for the millennium whale glue that enhances physical fitness, let alone it. Mu Qing basically eats 1 to 2 pieces every month, and the millennium whale glue doesn't even qualify for his plate. Even Mu Qing, a soul beast with rich soul power, can eat it every once in a while, and because the quantity and quality of sea soul beasts are much higher than those of mainland soul beasts. So even though I am only 6 years old, my height has already surpassed that of my peers, and my strength is not weaker than that of ordinary adults, thanks to my father's daily supervision and exercise. Not many people on the whole continent can enjoy this treatment, which is the gap between relying on family and ordinary civilians. Well, life and death are predetermined, everything depends on tomorrow. After speaking, Mu Qing collapsed on the bed and fell asleep in a big zigzag shape. The next day, when the panicked red sun crossed the sea level and pierced through the clouds, the golden light spread across the coast, and the city of Aolai was once again revitalized. On the street, the bustling crowds along the coast began to bustle, with the red sun hanging high and the sea breeze blowing, creating a lively scene. Mu Qing, under the careful service of the maid, put on a gorgeous silver robe with purple dragon patterns carved on the chest and cuffs, and came to the courtyard with a relaxed expression after washing up. At this moment, a middle-aged man with a strong physique and not too tall was already standing on the lawn in the courtyard. The man's face was somewhat stiff, with a pair of sharp eyebrows and eyes. His purple tiger eyes matched with a pair of sword eyebrows looked very domineering, and his demeanor was very serious. At first glance, he was a person who had been sitting in a high position for a long time and was swift and decisive. But it was this kind of person who, at the moment of seeing Mu Qing again, his stiff and serious face suddenly became cheerful, and his Chinese character face twisted into a flower. "Ah, good son, come here, come to Dad." When Mu Yun saw his own son coming out of the room again, his smiling face bloomed like a flower, making Xueyu, who was watching this scene, burst into laughter. "Dad, Mom." Mu Qing walked up to the two of them and greeted them warmly. Her charming smile made Xueyu involuntarily squat down and take a big bite at his slightly baby-fat pink cheeks. Mu Yun looked at Mu Qing and whispered, "Xiao Qing, today I will awaken your martial soul for you. Are you ready?" Mu Qing wiped his saliva from his face, looked up at his father, and nodded forcefully. "Okay, come on, come with me to the front." Mu Yun took Mu Qing's hand and arrived at a high platform in front of the courtyard. 6 black stones were placed on the platform, arranged in a 6-pointed star shape, looking ordinary and unremarkable. Mu Qing, who has seen it many times, knows that this is the awakening stone, and if you want to awaken your martial soul, you must use this thing. Nowadays, there are generally some influential big families, which are not too rare. "Ready, just stand in front and don't move." "That's right, it's where my fingers are. Calm down and follow my instructions later." "Got it." Listening to his father's more serious tone, Mu Qing pursed his lips and his slightly nervous mood slowly dissipated. Purple-eyed Dragon King, possessed. As he drank low, Mu Yun's robust body began to rapidly expand, and in just the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a small giant nearly 3 meters tall. His arms, neck, and 2 ends of his cheeks are wrapped in hexagonal dragon scales resembling amethysts. A pair of dragon claws shimmering with cold light are incredibly sharp, and even Mu Qing, who is a few meters away, can feel the sharpness attached to those claws firsthand. And what caught Mu Qing's attention the most was his father's eyes. The originally purple eyes became even deeper, as if 2 purple flames were burning in the pupils. Just a glance at Mu Qing gave him a strange feeling that his mind was about to be sucked in. At the same time, 8 soul rings of different colors emerged from Mu Yun's body. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 red. Especially the last red soul ring, as it slowly rose from Mu Yun's body, its majestic momentum and dazzling luster blinded Mu Qing's eyes. A 100,000-year soul ring. Does my father actually have a 100,000-year soul ring? Focus. Accompanied by Mu Yun's deep voice, Mu Qing quickly tightened his mind and closed his eyes. Despite being shocked by his father's possession of a 100,000-year soul ring, he quickly focused and remembered his primary goal. As Mu Yun's soul power rushed towards the awakening stone, countless golden lights also began to emerge from the black stone, like countless fireflies surging and flashing towards Mu Qing's body, not entering his body. As a Soul Dolua level powerhouse, Mu Yun's soul power purity and quality within his body are far from comparable to those of a great soul master or soul lord. I saw Mu Yun waving with one hand, his strong soul power enveloping 6 stones. The awakening stone on the high platform in front of him suddenly shone with golden light, and countless golden lights flew towards Mu Qing's body at a faster speed. At this moment, Mu Qing felt very wonderful. With countless golden lights appearing in his body, his interior suddenly began to warm up. He could clearly feel these golden lights flying towards 2 different places after entering his body. One is the bones of my entire body, and the other is actually my own eyes. What is the situation? Feeling the position and direction of the surging golden light, Mu Qing was greatly shocked. What's going on? Shouldn't I awaken the purple-eyed Dragon King or the Bone Dragon? But is this a variation of martial soul? But according to this mutation method, how does it feel like the body martial soul is immediately awakened? Also, is this my twin martial soul? As the only son of the head of the Mu family, Mu Qing had an extraordinary experience and was well versed in some knowledge of the Soul Master realm. Not to mention, he had a large memory in his mind earlier, which made him more aware of what his current situation was. As time went on, the golden light surging out of the awakening stone became more dazzling and rich, and endless golden light continued to shuttle towards Mu Qing's body in front of the high platform. Watching such a long time pass and his own son still hasn't awakened his martial soul, Mu Yun and Xueyu not only didn't worry, but also had a strange surprise in their hearts. Well, if I'm not mistaken, Xiaoqing's martial soul should have mutated, and it's still a benign mutation. Otherwise, based on my current soul power consumption, even the purple-eyed Dragon King's awakening of my innate soul power at level 9 did not consume as much soul power. Mu Yun's voice trembled slightly, suppressing his surprise. Although the matter was not over yet and his martial soul had not even come out, he could tell that his son's awakening martial soul was definitely not easy just by the speed and degree of his soul power consumption. The strength of a person's martial soul can already be reflected as a certain omen when awakened. Generally, if the soul master who awakens the martial soul is a great soul master or a soul master, because the perception of soul power and spiritual power are relatively weak, they may not be felt. However, as the peak soul Dolua approaching the title Dolua, Mu Yun can clearly see some changes in Mu Qing's soul power at this time, as his soul power is rapidly depleting, and such a situation only occurs when the awakened martial soul is very powerful. Xueyu just nodded, although she was a bit surprised in her heart. As long as the martial soul was related to the mutation, it meant uncertainty and there were too many unstable factors. She held her hands tightly on her chest and continued to pray for her own son. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Tianmu and Holy Bones. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Tianmu and Holy Bones. Mu Qing stood in place, unable to perceive everything happening outside. He now only felt his body temperature rapidly rising. At first, it was a warm and comfortable feeling like soaking in a hot spring. Suddenly, the hot spring began to heat up quickly, especially in various parts of the body. Every bone began to crackle, and every part of the body seemed to be being bitten by countless ants, itching uncontrollably. Only his own eyes, constantly enveloped by golden light, were like a sip of ice water poured into the dog days. The spiritual comfort gave Mu Qing, who was in pain all over his body, a trace of spiritual comfort. The pain did not last long. After a few minutes, when the last ray of golden light, perceived by Mu Qing, rushed into his bones and eyes, the pain and comfort dissipated without a trace. At this moment, under the gaze of Mu Yun and Xueyu, Mu Qing's body suddenly began to glow from all over. Mu Qing stood straight in place, as if a glowing device had been installed inside his body. All the tissue inside his skin and flesh was displayed in front of the two, like an X-ray of his entire body's bones. This scene is like a person taking photos in a hospital, with all the bones on their body scanned by X-rays and displayed in front of the doctor. What's different is that Mu Qing's bones all over his body seem to have been coated with a layer of golden paint. The golden bones are dazzling, shining brightly, as if he has been molded into a layer of golden body. But these are just appearances. Perhaps it is because Mu Qing's martial soul evolved from a bone dragon, and every bone on his body was covered with a layer of golden dragon patterns. The dragon pattern is very dazzling, grand and imposing, with unparalleled dominance. The bones contain a rich dragon power, even at the level of Soul Dolua. Mu Yun, who possesses the purple-eyed Dragon King's martial soul, feels a bit oppressed. Is this martial soul suppression? Also, is this powerful attribute the ultimate gold? Mu Yun and Xueyu both looked at this scene incredulously. They didn't expect that Mu Qing's awakened martial soul would completely surpass the two top-level martial souls, Bone Dragon and Purple-Eyed Dragon King. From the perspective of the dragon attribute aura contained, the richness is no less than that of the true dragon-level martial soul Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex. Mu Yun has seen the soul of the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex. Although the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex, one of the top 3 sects, was exterminated thousands of years ago, the inheritance of this soul has not been cut off. For example, in the Dragon City of the Heavenly Soul Empire, there is another large city over 1,000 kilometers away from Aolai City, where there is a sect with a considerable number of blue electric tyrant dragon soul masters inside. Moreover, Shrek also has a lineage of blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex. It can be said that even today, thousands of years later, blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex is still an insurmountable peak in animal martial souls. As the owner of martial souls belonging to the same dragon attribute, who had never been more energetic when he was young, Mu Yun had outstanding talent and was full of confidence in himself. As a dragon attribute soul master, he naturally challenged some young soul masters from the opponent's sect. Unfortunately, except for one or two who can still be seen through, only one young generation in such a large sect can surpass him. And that person is even 10 years older than him, and now he is the leader of the Tianlong sect. Otherwise, standing in the same age group, Mu Yun would dare to speak up and explode him. He is a talented graduate from Shrek Academy's inner courtyard, the Son of Heaven. At the age of 38, he is a level 88 Soul Dolua, recognized by everyone as a title Dolua before the age of 40, and he is also a title Dolua with at least one 100,000-year soul ring. Mu Yun's future is capable of reaching the pinnacle of the mainland. Is this the essence of martial soul? Xueyu was surprised and said, Xiaoqing's martial soul has mutated into a body martial soul. The whole body skeleton. The true dragon-level dragon power, and the ultimate gold. Mu Yun nodded, feeling somewhat disappointed that Mu Qing had not inherited his purple-eyed dragon king. However, he immediately became excited again. From the suppression of his martial soul, he could see that Mu Qing's martial soul was definitely stronger than both of them. Moreover, this is a martial soul with ultimate attributes. As Shrek-born Mu Yun and Xueyu, how could they not know about the ultimate attribute, which can be called a hanging wall attribute? Although the two of them have prominent identities, it does not mean that they do not need to study at the Soul Master Academy. Their relationship is somewhat similar to that of the Dai and Zhu families in the Star Luo Empire. They have been in a marriage since childhood, and their engagement has been predetermined. Therefore, when they reached the age of 11, they did not choose to go to the Royal Soul Master Academy in Doling, but instead went to Shrek to study. The suppression of the same level Soul Master by the ultimate attribute Soul Master is absolutely unsolvable, which is a dimensional difference. Even if the ultimate attribute Soul Master is between level 30 and level 70, the speed of soul power cultivation is much slower than that of the same level Soul Master. However, this is because the ultimate attribute requires too much soul power quality from the Soul Master, and combat power cannot be solely judged by level. Moreover, after level 70, the ultimate attribute Soul Masters can take off directly, and their soul power will show a rapid growth. As long as they break through the title Dolua, they can rival Super Dolua. When they become Super Dolua, the invincibility of the mainland is well deserved. In Shrek's 10,000 years, the three most glorious eras, each era's Sea God Pavilion Master is the ultimate attribute Soul Master, each of whom is well deserved and universally recognized as invincible. This shows the strength of this attribute. Wait. Mu Yun was about to take out the crystal ball and call out to Mu Qing to test his innate soul power. When he turned his head, he saw Mu Qing's newly opened eyes. What kind of eyes were those? The originally purple eyes were covered with a layer of gold, and the purple golden eyes were bright and lively, with a dazzling aura that was like a human emperor. Mu Yun observed carefully and found that Mu Qing's purple golden eyes had a dragon pattern wrapped around and dancing around the pupils. Is this another martial soul? Mu Yun clenched his fist and couldn't contain the excitement in his heart, shouting, "Twin martial souls! My son is actually the owner of twin martial souls." At this moment, Xueyu also noticed the abnormality of her own son, and noticed the changes in Mu Qing's eyes. Listening to the excited voice of her husband beside her, she also laughed happily. At the next moment, Xueyu turned around and fiercely picked up Mu Yun, who was only as tall as her chest. She turned around and shouted happily, "Husband, our son is a peerless genius, one of the most extraordinary among billions of people." Xueyu was very happy in her heart. As a princess of the royal family, although she had already become a married woman, she had a deep affection for her country. Qing had such a strong talent that once she grew up in the future, it was not impossible to restore the glory of the Doling Empire and even make further progress. At this moment, Qing was bewildered. He had just felt a hint of mystery in his two martial souls, and after understanding the general information about the two martial souls that had awakened, he came to his mind. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw his father, like a small bird clinging to someone, being affectionately embraced by his mother and spinning in circles. This scene was indeed quite eye-catching. He didn't expect that the Mu family leader, who was usually imposing and rigorous outside, would still have such a side. Cough. Qing lowered his head and reached out to rub his eyes, pretending to be choked, which made the two people on the side panic and quickly separate from each other. Yun's face turned a bit dark at this moment, but because of such a happy event, he did not forget more important things. "Son, come on, quickly test your innate soul power. Our Mu family may have an unparalleled genius from today on." Qing looked at the expectant eyes of his parents without much hesitation, and directly reached out his right hand to place it on the crystal ball. Qing felt an invisible wave probing his body through his palm, as if sensing a certain part of his body. In just the blink of an eye, a blue light filled his eyes. In an instant, the crystal ball covered by Qing's palm was instantly repelled by the blue light. Innate full soul power. Yun and Xueyu spoke in unison and said, "Indeed, it is indeed innate soul power." Yun finally let go of a stone in his heart. Although he had some speculations in his heart, it wasn't until the scene before him truly happened that he truly relaxed. That's right, they all have ultimate attribute soul masters, and every martial soul with ultimate attribute is a super martial soul that surpasses the top martial soul. It's strange if it's not innate full soul power. "Son, what is the name of your martial soul?" Xueyu stared at her own son in a daze, wishing she could immediately embrace him and take a few harsh bites. "My two martial souls are both physical martial souls, one is a full-body skeleton, and the other is an eye." Qing explained to Yun and Xueyu, the former is a strong attack-type martial soul, and can also develop towards a defense type. "I can feel that my bones carry a sharp yet extremely masculine aura throughout my body. As for the latter, there is no need to mention the spiritual type of the main martial soul. We know that the aura you're talking about is the ultimate metallicity, which is the ultimate gold. Every ultimate attribute of a martial soul is a super martial soul, second only to divine-level martial souls, and has completely surpassed the category of top-level martial souls. What I mean is, what is your martial soul called? Have you figured it out yet?" Yun touched his own son's soft white hair, and his affection was undisguised. Is it the ultimate gold?" Qing pondered for a moment and said, "Then, let's call it the Holy Bone and Heavenly Eye." End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Martial Soul Talent. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Martial Soul Talent. At night, finally getting rid of his excited parents, Qing wiped the sweat off his forehead and returned to his room. He sat cross-legged on the bed, recalling the explanation about the martial soul that had appeared in his mind when he awakened. After understanding his martial soul, there is always an inexplicable sense of familiarity. The two martial souls are very similar to the two abilities in a movie or TV series from another world in memory. The Holy Bone, as the main martial soul, is all the bones on Qing's body. The enhancement of physical fitness by this martial soul is really exaggerated, and during the day, it may be overlooked due to parents being too excited. But Qing was very aware that it was just a awakening of a martial soul. His height had increased by at least 10 centimeters, but at the age of only 6, he was already close to 1.5 meters tall. His height alone was enough to rival that of an ordinary 10-year-old boy, and he could clearly feel that his body weight was at least twice that of before the awakening. This represents that his strength and physical fitness have just increased several times after undergoing martial soul awakening. Should we say that this increase in intensity is truly true to the essence of martial soul? Even top-level beast martial souls are not so exaggerated. This is because the holy bone awakens Mu Qing's entire body skeleton, causing each of his bones to increase dramatically, whether in density or other aspects. Even calling it an iron bone is not an exaggeration. Moreover, his whole body's qi and blood increase significantly, making him feel like a dragon. Mu Qing felt that in the future winter, he didn't even need to wear thick clothes to keep warm. Not only that, Mu Qing sat cross-legged on the bed, reached out and clenched his fist, feeling the explosive power of his body, and had an illusion that one punch was enough to smash the mountain peak. This is a significant increase in bone density, followed by a significant increase in strength, which also rapidly strengthens one's physical body. Otherwise, if only the bones are strong but the physical meridians cannot keep up, his body cannot withstand the pressure of the martial soul, nor can it bear this pressure. Even daily activities are very difficult. If he takes a step casually, his body may crack open. Mu Qing could feel the faint golden light flickering beneath his skin and flesh, echoing the dragon lines on the surface of his bones. These golden lights continuously surged towards his muscles, enhancing his overall physical fitness to adapt to the significantly increased density of his bones. According to his perception, in a few more days, when his martial soul completely improves his skin, flesh, and all aspects of his body's meridians, even if his first soul ring absorbs a millennium soul ring, it will not be a problem. And the holy bone is very similar to a certain ability in his memory. If I have to say, it has some similarities with the blood inheritance limit of the Radiant Knight clan in the Hokage in certain aspects, such as his vitality has been greatly enhanced, and he can freely control the growth of his own bones. In simple terms, he is able to attack enemies in a way that allows his bones to grow almost infinitely, just like the Kagaya clan and Jun Malu in the Hokage. He can directly extract bones from any position within his body to attack, and can regrow the bones in their original position within 3 seconds. This is the first benefit bestowed upon him by the holy bone, which is its immense vitality and ultimate bone control. Rather than being a benefit, it is more like a martial soul instinct, which is an ability that comes with the innate awakening of martial souls, allowing them to freely control their entire body's bones. Not only can he freely control the growth of his bones, but after the bones penetrate the body, the wounds will quickly recover to their original state. According to Mu Qing's own estimation, his vitality is at least 10 times that of a normal soul master of the same level, otherwise he cannot afford the consumption of this soul power on vitality. This is just the first ability, and the second one is that his martial soul is a mutated whole body skeleton, which is several times harder than the bones of an ordinary soul master. From the golden light and dragon patterns on the surface of the bones, one can feel that this martial soul is inherited and mutated from one's own mother's bone dragon martial soul. Rather than calling it a holy bone, it is actually more appropriate to call it a dragon bone, and it is also a true dragon bone. As a result, his bone density is higher and his weight is heavier. The third and final one is the ultimate gold. The ultimate gold is usually known for its unparalleled sharpness and unparalleled powerful killing and attacking power that no other attribute can match. It is widely recognized in the entire Soul Master world that there is only one creature that can barely grasp the ultimate gold, and that is the Super Soul Beast. The Dark Gold Terror Claw Bear. That can fight against real dragons at the same level and has the Bimon bloodline. The ultimate attributes have their own advantages and disadvantages, and there is no true strength or weakness. For example, the extreme ice can use extremely low temperatures to achieve powerful control, and the range is extremely large and difficult to resist. The ultimate fire is similar to the ultimate ice, but it uses extremely high temperatures to clear the field rather than control it, with astonishing killing power. The ultimate thunder has the strongest explosive and destructive power among the ultimate attributes. The ultimate land possesses unparalleled defense and endurance. Compared to all the ultimate attributes, the ultimate gold can be considered the ultimate in terms of attack power and lethality. And most importantly, Mu Qing's ultimate gold can manipulate metals, and any metal must be under his control. This ability is too domineering. As long as the soul power and spiritual power are sufficient, this ability is almost like the electromagnetic king. The only difference may be that it cannot rotate the magnetic field. This ability can only be considered a talent bestowed by attribute laws. From this perspective, the ultimate gold defense is not weaker than the ultimate soil, but its endurance is not as good as the opponent's, his explosive power is not as strong as the ultimate thunder, but his destructive power is not inferior at all, although his control and clearing abilities may not be as wide as the range of extreme ice and extreme fire, he is stronger in terms of attack power and speed, and his killing power is the strongest among all attributes. It can be said that this is an extremely comprehensive attribute, with strong defense, speed, strength, attack power, and explosive power. This is also why among the several ferocious beasts in the Star Do Forest, the dark gold terror claw Xiong Xiong Jun, who has only 400,000 years of cultivation, can compete with the golden-eye black dragon King Tian, who has over 800,000 years of cultivation. Although ultimately defeated, he still uses his great move, tearing the heavenly claw, to seriously injure the Emperor Tian, and it takes him several thousand years to recover from his injuries. However, the dark gold terror claw bear is a descendant of the Bimon giant beast. Their ultimate gold does not have the ability to control metal, but instead focuses more on destruction and tearing attributes, just like the Ice Emperor who controls the ultimate ice and the Snow Emperor who controls the ultimate snow. The essence is the same, but the emphasis on abilities is different. Xiong Jun and Emperor Tian are both super soul beasts, one mastering the ultimate gold, one mastering the ultimate darkness, one being the leader of the dark gold terror claw bear clan, and the other being the leader of the black dragon clan. If both have the same cultivation level, whether the latter can defeat the former is really an unknown factor. As for the second martial soul, it is also very unique. As a spiritual martial soul and also his second physical martial soul, it is very similar to Huago's spiritual eye martial soul, with some differences in abilities. Firstly, it is insight. Tianmu is a variant of the Mu family's inherited martial soul, the purple-eyed dragon king, with extremely strong observation and dynamic vision. Mu Qing can now easily see the patterns on the wings of mosquitoes several tens of meters away, as well as the every movement of the wings. This abnormal dynamic vision has enabled him to reach the peak of his observation ability as a soul master of the same level. He can capture higher-level soul master actions, predict the actions of soul masters of the same level, and capture stronger soul master actions than himself. Moreover, Tianmu not only has excellent observation and dynamic vision, but also can clearly see the body meridians and soul power flow of Chu's soul master. Simply put, if he uses this martial soul to observe the cultivation of Tang sect members, he will directly steal the cultivation route of techniques such as Xiantian Gong. If this function had been placed 10,000 years ago, I'm sorry, Mu Qing would have been overjoyed. After all, although Xiantian Gong is only a martial arts internal skill, it is still much more advanced than the meditation method in the Soul Master realm. But in this period, he can only hee-hee. Who didn't know that the Xiantian Gong possessed by the Tang clan was a version that had been castrated by Tang San, and its assistance in cultivation was not much different from ordinary meditation methods. Instead, it would be better for him to create one himself if he had the ability in the future, taking the strengths of countless families. Of course, this function is not just for this purpose. It also represents that Mu Qing can see through the enemy's meridians and the amount of soul power in his body, judge the enemy's strength, and more accurately grasp their strength, so as to make better countermeasures in combat. Each inherited family or sect has its own unique meditation method, and although these meditation methods have similar practices in soul power, there are also some strengths that can be learned from. For example, the blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex cultivation method passed down by the Tianmu sect is said to have a dark idea that not only increases the speed of cultivating soul power, but also comes with a body forging effect, which can slightly enhance the physical fitness of soul masters. This is also the reason why most of the soul rings of blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex soul masters are dragon-like soul beasts. The energy contained in soul rings is not simply summarized in terms of years. For example, a 1,000-year-old dark gold claw bear, although only 1,000 years old, is capable of rampaging ordinary 10,000-year soul beasts. The soul rings born from this super soul beast contain extremely high-quality soul power, which is estimated to be no less than the average 2,000 to 3,000-year soul beasts. Although he has not yet started practicing the meditation method of the Mu family, his parents have explained it to him. According to his parents, although the Mu family's inherited meditation method is not weaker than any other meditation method in cultivating soul power, the reason why it has been passed down for so many years is because this meditation method has a slight effect on enhancing spiritual power. Although the effect is not very obvious and requires accumulation over time to take effect, it is still much more effective than other meditation methods. After all, the difficulty of improving mental strength is much more difficult than physical fitness. Mu Qing touched his chin. Anyway, he has the ability to see through other people's meridians. When he gets to Shrek in the future, it will be a gathering place for geniuses and inheritors of major families. If the memory in his mind is not wrong, he only knows about various major forces such as the Duke of White Tiger, the Nine Treasures Glass sect, the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus rex, the Xianming sect, and the Tang men. At that time, he can observe them appropriately. This is not theft, this is talent. How can one say that one's innate abilities are theft? Mu Qing strongly expressed in his heart that he is just borrowing from others, and it's not a big deal to wait until he studies the idea of the underworld and spreads it. Anyway, it's just a dark idea that has some impact on him, but not many. Even if it spreads, it still cannot change the huge gap between them. His unparalleled talent is his unparalleled confidence. Not only that, this ability similar to copying can also bring some self-created soul skills, such as the cloak hammer technique, ghost shadow and mistake steps, or some excellent body techniques for personal use, which indirectly improves his thinking ability. His thinking speed for certain things is very fast. When he learned about this, Mu Qing once thought that he had awakened to the Sharingan, but unlike him, he didn't know if his eyes would have the ability to evolve like the former, nor did he know if he would have that extraordinary pupillary ability, such as the bug-level power of other gods like Susanoo. This needs further verification. Nevertheless, the power of these functions has also made Mu Qing very satisfied. Mu Qing waved his fist vigorously, venting his excitement in his heart. Take off from Wu-Hu. During the day, in addition to celebrating my martial soul awakening with my parents, I also inquired about Shrek Academy from them outside of words. Unexpectedly, it's okay not to inquire about it. When I asked about it, my parents actually told me that they were both Shrek students, and they were also students in the inner courtyard. No wonder my father had already cultivated to the level of a title Dolua before the age of 40, and my mother had already reached level 75, Soul Saint in her early 30s. Even in Shrek's inner courtyard, their talents were extremely outstanding. Subsequently, under his inquiry, the two also introduced some information about Shrek to Mu Qing. When Mu Qing heard about Xian Lao, Dean Xian Duo of the Soul Guidance Department, Dean Yen Xiaozha of the Martial Soul Department, and two others leaving the inner courtyard, a talented junior sister began to gradually show her talents and shine brightly. A woman named Zhang Lishuan. After listening to these, Mu Qing had a clearer understanding of the things in his memory. This prerequisite cognition is also the most joyful thing for him today, apart from the awakening of his martial soul. I am now aware of the changes on the continent in the coming decades, and even understand the location and acquisition methods of most opportunities on the continent in the coming decades. Hui Yuhao is a spiritual soul master, and it is precisely for this reason that he successfully made Tianmeng Ice Silkworm, who was avoiding the pursuit of various fierce beasts in the Star Forest, choose to seal their own cultivation and start sacrificing. The first million-year-old soul beast clearly recorded on a continent was sacrificed to a young man with only 1 level of innate soul power and only 10 levels at the age of 11. And it attracted another dimension, the residual spiritual consciousness of the generation leader Ilix, into the spiritual sea of Huiyuhao. Compared to the former, Qing has always felt that the latter, Ilix, has a greater auxiliary effect on Huiyuhao, and can be regarded as Hua's biggest hanging and life mentor in the early stage of hanging. Even Tianmu ice silkworm cannot compare in some aspects. There is also the gold of living beings and the eyes of ice and fire, which he naturally wants to obtain when there is a chance. Especially for the former, Qing always had an intuition that if he could integrate the gold of life, even without Ilix and Tianmu ice silkworm, he could still surpass Dolua's biggest bug, Huagua. To become stronger, one must compete with others, and fight against heaven. Qing's eyes gradually became firm. He could do what others could do, and since he had such a great talent now, if he didn't give it a good play and break through a world, wouldn't he not disappoint the many prerequisites he has obtained now? That night, Qing had a long dream, with a smile on his lips. It didn't dissipate all night. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Gifts. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Gifts. The next day, early in the morning, Qing was called out by Yun. After finishing his toiletries, he walked out of the room into the courtyard and found that his father and mother were standing in the center of the courtyard, each holding a long box, with no servants around. "What are you, Mom and Dad?" Qing asked in confusion. "Come on, good son." Yun held the long box in one hand and gestured towards Qing with the other. When he approached, Yun handed the long box in his hand. "Open it and take a look. This is the gift that your mother and I have prepared for you respectively, to celebrate your awakening of martial soul. First, let's see if the gift prepared for your father is satisfactory." Qing suddenly took the long box and pushed open the lid with his hand. The packaging of the box is very antique and looks very dated. The whole body is carved from a gray-brown wood, emitting a pleasant fragrance. There are also some very complex patterns on the surface, similar to the Soul Guide array inside the Soul Guide, which looks very strange. There are no magnificent treasures inside the box, only a black hard object about the size of 1 cubic meter, which looks like there is nothing that can catch people's attention. Qing pressed his hand on it and squeezed it hard, only to find that even with all his strength, he couldn't move the hard object in his hand. "What is this?" Seeing that Qing was somewhat ignorant, Yun smiled and explained, "This is whale glue." "Whale glue?" Qing looked at the inexplicable object in his hand, which looked like a black stone, with some confusion. "This can't be whale glue for 10,000 years, can it?" Qing casually asked, remembering that Hugo had once bought a piece of 10,000-year-old whale glue at a very low price in Shrek, which others mistakenly believed to be millennium whale glue. He vaguely remembers that the description was similar to the one in front of him. But he clearly remembers that whale glue is only the size of a human head, but this piece is a full cubic meter. What is this concept? He has also seen whale glue before. He often sees and eats it for thousands of years, but whale glue for thousands of years is a rare commodity, even he has never seen it. Not every sea soul beast can produce whale glue, only whale soul beasts, and it must be a relatively powerful race inside, so every piece of whale glue is actually very precious. Like Wang Dong, the father is a deity, and the daughter of the god, who is backed by the giant Haotian sect, has only eaten a few pieces of millennium whale glue, which shows its preciousness. Since knowing its effectiveness, this thing has always been in a situation of insufficient supply. After all, soul masters want their descendants to be cultivated, but unfortunately, the stock is too small. The sea is also a forbidden area for humans. Even today, thousands of years later, no one dares to venture into the depths of the sea. The reason why the walls of Aolai city are built so high, even more majestic than those of the imperial city Spirit Do city, is because Aolai city is adjacent to the sea, and for a long time in the past, sea soul beasts often came ashore to wreak havoc. In order to prevent sea soul beasts from damaging the city, it was built so grandly. With the popularity of soul weapons and the trade in Shanghai, the Mu family often engaged in trade with several major empires. After installing various advanced attack and defense soul weapons, Aolai city truly turned the sea soul beasts near the shore into a large amount of resources, and gradually began to explore and capture resources in deeper areas of the sea. And in this situation, whale glue was discovered to have another special function besides aphrodisiac. Whenever it appeared, it was in a state of frenzy. Only the Mu family, who controlled the entire fishing resources of Aolai city and, as the lord of Aolai city, had all the rights to life, death, and seizure within the fiefdom, could have some storage. Oh. You actually know. Mu Yun was very surprised that his son, who has been staying at the front door all day, actually recognizes this thing. This is quite rare. Xueyu was also somewhat surprised, but then laughed and said, "It seems that Xiaoqing has done her homework privately before, which is good. Mom feels very pleased." Mu Qing smiled and didn't say much, but Mu Yun's next words completely shocked him. This is not an ordinary 10,000-year-old whale glue, but a demon killer whale glue that can last up to 80,000 years. What? 80,000 years? Return the demon killer whale. Mu Qing widened his eyes and took a deep breath. In the original work, Wang Dong once told Hui Yuhao that a piece of 2,000-year-old whale gel can be absorbed by a soul master, and the year of obtaining the next soul ring can be increased by at least 500 years. The 10,000-year whale gel is even more exaggerated, which can increase the year by at least 1,000 years. Of course, this thing does not mean that eating more is better. Only eating it for the first time is the best effect. In the future, only obtaining a more advanced and precious whale gel will have a more significant effect, otherwise, it won't have much effect. But this in front of me is actually 80,000 years old whale glue. And it is also one of the extremely rare sea soul beast lords in human history, the demon killer whale glue. How powerful the effect would be. This thing is the same as soul bones. Absorbing whale glue does not value cultivation. Even if you are a soul master, as long as you have this luck and fortune, you can absorb it. It is not an exaggeration to say that the value of the 80,000-year-old demon killer whale glue in front of us even exceeds that of a 10,000-year soul bone outside. If we were to auction, it would definitely be a sky-high price. Being able to make a person surpass others by a large margin from the starting line is not something that ordinary soul bones can match. Even as the next lord of Aolai city and Duke of Purple Dragon, Mu Qing has been eating the most expensive whale glue for thousands of years from childhood to adulthood. Now, eating whale glue for thousands of years will not have much effect on him, as it only takes more than 10,000 years to have a significant effect on him. How could it be? How could our family have preserved whale glue of such high age to this day? Mu Qing raised the lightweight whale gel with both hands and carefully examined it, but no matter where he observed it, he couldn't tell that it was actually an 80,000-year-old whale gel. Mu Yun touched his chin and was satisfied with Mu Qing's shocked expression. He explained, "This is the Purple Dragon Duke from 300 years ago. When the ancestors of the Mu family broke through the tidal Dolua, they went out to sea to hunt down the 9th soul ring. The treasure they obtained from an 80,000-year-old demon killer whale has been kept in the family treasure trove. If it weren't for yesterday when I went to the treasure trove, I would have almost forgotten about it." At this moment, Xueyu also spoke up and said, "I have discussed with your father that this whale gel is too old, and you have not obtained a soul ring. Therefore, we plan to have you take it in batches, taking a small piece a day. It will take 10 days to completely consume this whale gel." Mu Qing nodded without any objection. Both his parents were strong at the level of Soul Saint and Soul Dolua, and their knowledge and experience were much clearer and richer than his own. The arrangement is definitely the most suitable for oneself, and one only needs to follow the instructions step by step. At this moment, he was quite interested in how much the whale gel could help him increase the lifespan of his soul ring. With such a high lifespan of whale gel, the entire Soul Master world probably hasn't appeared before, and the increase in the body of the Soul Master is definitely enormous. We have estimated based on the efficacy of whale gel. After you fully consume and digest this whale gel, you will be able to obtain your first soul ring. Based on your physical fitness and the degree of improvement of your body's martial soul's physical fitness, your first soul ring can also obtain soul rings with a lifespan of at least 5,000 years. As Mu Yun spoke, he imagined, the first soul ring is at least 5,000 years old. The Mu family is about to release it. Hee hee. Hee hee. The two of them tacitly ignored someone who had already fallen into a beautiful fantasy on the side. After seeing that Mu Qing had no objections, Xueyu immediately handed him the long box in her hand. Open it and take a look. This is the gift your mother has chosen for you. I believe it won't disappoint you. Mu Qing nodded and pushed away the long box in his hand. This time, what appeared in front of him was no longer the unattractive thing like whale glue, but a brilliant and dazzling bone. At the first glance of this thing, Mu Qing felt an inexplicable desire emanating from all over his body. The strong desire of his bones for this thing seemed like a person who had been thirsty for a few days suddenly saw an oasis. Mu Qing resisted the impulse to absorb it on the spot, as if a voice was echoing in his mind. After absorbing this thing, he could greatly enhance himself. Is this a soul bone? Mu Qing curiously gazed at the strange bones placed in the long box. This was a bone that was completely different from the 6 major parts of the Soul Master. The appearance of the bone resembled a mask, like the mask on the face of a mask ball held at a certain venue that covered the upper half of the face. The mask is very gorgeous, presenting a blue and gold overall, with obvious 2 eye sockets and a nose tip. It is grand with mystery, magnificent with a hint of majesty, especially with 4 sharp dragon horns on the left and right tips of the mask, but it does not show any ferocity or terror. Instead, it has a domineering and unparalleled temperament, as well as a contradictory aura of auspiciousness and peace. Head soul bone. No, this is an external soul bone. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Kirin, Seeking Collection and Investment. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Kirin, Seeking Collection and Investment. Mu Qing was stunned. His mother had an external soul bone that had not been absorbed. This is an external soul bone. How precious is the external soul bone? The probability of obtaining it is so small that it is terrifying. According to the records in one's own history and memories from previous lives, in that great era 10,000 years ago, there were only 2 people who possessed external soul bones. One was Tang San, the son of Qi Yun, and the other was the strongest force on the mainland at that time, the martial soul Hall Pope Bibi Dong. As for the other 10,000-year soul bones, they are everywhere in the later stage. Almost every person has at least one, and the 100,000-year soul bone is relatively not too rare, but there are only 2 external soul bones from beginning to end. It can be seen from this how rare external soul bones are. This is the treasure that all soul masters on the mainland dream of. In other words, the thing in front of me is definitely comparable to an ordinary 100,000-year soul bone, and even surpasses it. After all, the external soul bone can gradually upgrade and improve with the cultivation of the Soul Master, greatly increasing the combat power of the Soul Master. It can follow from the weak period to the peak period, and can be called a divine weapon. This is simply unbelievable. Mu Qing admitted that another once again was shocked. My mother actually hides such an external soul bone, and I don't even absorb it. Mom, how could you? Looking at her own son's shocked expression, Xueyu chuckled lightly and said, "This is not what I got from hunting soul beasts. It was an accident I got while sailing with your father a few years ago. Before Mu Qing could ask, Mu Yun, who had already regained his senses, continued to explain with a smile, "That's right. It's fortunate to say that we didn't have you at the time. After graduating from Shrek, your mother and I returned to Aolai City to take over the family's business. You also know that the Mu family manages the entire Aolai City and the largest fishing industry among the 3 countries in Dolua continent. The amount of profit involved and how many sea soul beasts we deal with each year is completely unimaginable for ordinary people. At that time, your mother and I were traveling alone on the Mu family's boat to explore the business of our fishing industry. However, we unexpectedly encountered an injured sea soul beast. It was a very beautiful soul beast, with a dragon head, deer antlers, elk body, cow tail, lion eyes, dragon scales, and a beautiful blue crystal luster all over. Our limbs were well developed, and our body was agile and beautiful. Both your mother and I believe that this soul beast is likely an extinct unicorn from ancient times, and it is also a water unicorn. The kylin is widely recognized as an auspicious beast and is inherently close to humans. Your mother and I intended to save it, but as you know, we are both war soul masters, not auxiliary or healing soul masters, so there is no way. Even though your mother and I used our soul power to heal it, we were still unable to save it. Mu Qing listened to the story of his parents and immersed himself in it as if listening to a story. He didn't expect his parents to have such a good fortune, to encounter the kylin, which had already been recognized as extinct by the soul master realm. This is a kylin. It is a powerful soul beast that is comparable to a true dragon of the same level, and a race that is comparable to Xuanwu and Phoenix. Of course, although the kylin is an auspicious beast, it is still different from the auspicious beasts in the starry forest. The auspicious beasts in the starry forest embody the energy of the gathering place of soul beasts, and approaching a certain range can assist soul beasts in accelerating cultivation. The kylin is different. It is said that the kylin can see through a person's luck and predict their good luck. Humans who are favored by the kylin will never have bad luck, be disease-free, and live a long and peaceful life. Xueyu squatted down and pinched Mu Qing's fair and handsome face, his expression quite emotional. We helped him extend his life for 7 days, but in the end, he still collapsed before dawn on the 8th day. Perhaps to thank us, before his death, this water unicorn unexpectedly condensed his entire cultivation in an almost eerie way into this external soul bone that resembles half a mask. Mu Qing was shocked by his mother's words and interjected, "Mom, are you saying that this soul bone is not only a soul bone, but may also have a soul ring inside? How could Shui Qilin still have this ability? How can I feel that this scene is a bit similar to the evil spirit bead of the dark devil and the evil spirit tiger? Does this soul bone contain the essence and attribute origin of the water unicorn like the evil spirit bead? In that case, the value of this external soul bone would be difficult to estimate, and its value would definitely need to be elevated by at least 1 level." Xueyu and Mu Yun nodded at the same time, while the latter said, "Although we don't know how it actually did it, the kylin is recognized as a close to humans, and they are also known as auspicious beasts. Historical records clearly record that the reason why the kylin went extinct is because it was too friendly to humans. Because it has soul rings that are not inferior to real dragons, both physically and mentally, it is not inferior to real dragons, and even more peculiar and powerful in some aspects. Therefore, it was slaughtered by soul masters in a short period of time, ultimately leading to extinction. Their era of appearance is too far away from us, and it is not surprising that they possess any unique abilities. Your mother and I still feel very fortunate to have met this water unicorn on that voyage. Perhaps there is indeed a destined fate in the world, otherwise there wouldn't be a son as well-behaved, talented, and extraordinary as you born into our Mu family." Mu Qing smiled subtly, feeling a bit embarrassed to be praised by his parents. However, after a moment of reflection, a spiritual light flashed in his mind and he asked, "Mom and Dad, isn't this water kylin exactly a soul beast that has been around 5,000 years old?" Mu Yun laughed twice and placed a big hand on Mu Qing's head, gently rubbing his white hair. My son is intelligent, that's right. We have already observed it at that time, and it is indeed about 5,000 years of cultivation. That's why I said, perhaps there really exists a so-called chi luck, a so-called destiny, otherwise how could things be so coincidental? Oh, so coincidentally, we have an 80,000-year-old whale gel that can allow your first soul ring to absorb soul beasts that have been around for over 5,000 years. It's also so coincidental. Your mother was the soul king at the time, and I was the soul emperor. The age and attributes of the soul ring are not suitable, so we can't absorb it. It's also so coincidental. We have such a talented son with innate soul power and twin martial souls, and the martial soul is very suitable for absorbing this soul ring. Adding these coincidences together represents no coincidence. Watching his father's suddenly serious expression, Qing admitted that he had been taken aback. Although my father is just a soul warrior, I have to say that this insight is quite impressive. Isn't Huiyuhao the one? Why did Tang San spend so much effort on Huiyuhao, even willing to put his own daughter in it, and finally create the Qianquan Wenqing Valley? He also personally descended from the divine realm to intervene in the damage caused by war. This is not because Huiyuhao is a gathering place for the fortune of the Dolua continent for thousands of years. He is a loyal person with good luck, also known as the son of fate. Now it seems that my luck is not bad either. As long as you absorb this whale gel yourself and then absorb this external soul bone, your innate advantage can shake off all your peers on the continent. In terms of heritage, except for the first soul ring, which is the million-year-old Huogua, no one else can catch up with it. Moreover, with the advantage of foresight, the ownership of Tianmeng ice silkworm is still unknown. Huogua or Huolala still have to say two things. Thinking of this, Qing couldn't help but feel a hint of joy in his heart. Thank you Dad and Mom, I really like these two gifts. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Absorption of Whale Gel. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Absorption of Whale Gel. Qing was sitting on a chair, with a freshly cut plate of 3,000-year-old bluefin tuna belly placed in front of the table. The fresh and plump belly was cut to a moderate thickness and neatly arranged horizontally on a white plate. Qing picked up a knife and fork, dipped it in sauce, and began to taste it. This is his lunch, and it's also the Millennium Sea Soul beast meat he eats almost every day. A small plate of tuna belly meat like this may not be edible even if it costs 1,000 soul coins outside, because this type of soul beast is extremely difficult to catch. It is very difficult to catch a sea soul beast over 1,000 years old in the sea, and it is still a fish like tuna that can move rapidly in the water. Hotels below 4 stars in Aolai City should not have such a thing. At least they must have a 5-star rating or above to be eligible for the Mu family's fleet to provide them with such precious ingredients. For the young master of the Mu family, Qing, he eats this kind of food every few days. A plate of fish belly meat was eaten clean by Qing in just a few minutes. The maid beside her saw Qing finish it and quickly handed over the qingyun juice that had already been prepared in her hand. The purple-blue qingyun fruit juice is made from a type of fruit that is all green in color. Although the surface of the qingyun fruit is green, the juice squeezed is a mixture of purple and green. Most importantly, this fruit not only has strong soul power, which can improve the cultivation of soul masters, but also slightly increase their spiritual power, making it a precious treasure in the world. This kind of juice requires 3 to 5 green cloud fruits to be squeezed, and the price of 1 green cloud fruit on the market is 10 gold soul coins. This is equivalent to Qing spending thousands of gold soul coins on just eating every day, not even including the occasional feast of 1,000-year soul beast meat, whale glue, medicinal baths, and pills. If calculated carefully, Qing would have to spend 5 digits of gold soul coins every day. And a golden soul coin is enough to cover half a month's food expenses for ordinary civilians, which shows how much difference there is. Of course, these are only market prices after all. The Mu family controls the largest maritime trade and fishery resources in the entire Aolai city and Dolua continent, and the cost is naturally not that high, but it is not something that ordinary people can enjoy. In the afternoon, Mu Qing sat in the room, with his parents and an elderly man with white hair standing in front of him. The old man's name is Mu Zhuiyun, and he is the current senior elder of the Mu family. In terms of blood relationship, he is the current head of the Mu family, the uncle of the contemporary Duke of Purple Dragon, Mu Yun, and the great-grandfather of Mu Qing. It is also the only title Dolua of the Mu family now. He is over 100 years old this year and has a soul power level of up to 94. Purple-eyed Dolua. Grandpa. Mu Qing respectfully greeted the old man, who looked at him kindly. His wrinkled face now burst into laughter. Mu Yun, not bad. You have a good son. I didn't expect that in my later years, I would still be able to see such an outstanding future grandson in my family. Innate soul power, twin martial souls, ultimate gold, this talent is unparalleled in the thousands of years of history of our Mu family. Mu Yun looked at his uncle's happy mood and was also infected. Uncle said too much, Shaoqing still needs to continue working hard. Mu Yunxiang pretended to be humble and said, the child is still young. While talent is important and can be seen through, the most important thing is the later development and refinement of the character. Don't praise him too much, otherwise it may easily make him feel arrogant and irritable. Mu Zhuiyun widened his eyes and gave Mu Yun a fierce cut, causing him to instantly awaken. Humph, you stinky kid, you've been so inconspicuous all these years. I just want to praise him. He's my precious nephew, why can't I praise him? Mu Zhuiyun cursed a few times, feeling still frustrated. He slapped Mu Yun on the back, causing him to grin in pain. Humph, let's start now. I didn't expect that the 80,000-year-old whale glue left by my ancestors would come in handy at this time. The first soul ring in 50 years. I have lived for so long and have a lot of knowledge, but it's also the first time I've heard of such a thing. I really treat the Mu family well. The old man sighed for a moment, caressing his long beard with one hand, his expression light yet excited, like an old mischievous child. Okay, uncle. Mu Yun quickly agreed and took out the whale gel that was given to Mu Qing this morning from the storage soul guide ring in his hand. In the next moment, Mu Yun's right hand suddenly changed from a broad palm to a dragon claw covered with purple dragon scales. There was even a purple flame burning on the dragon claw, and the temperature was not very high. The air near the flame was rapidly twisted, and the style was very unique. Mu Qing stared at this scene without blinking his eyes. He understood that the purple flame in his father's hand was the spiritual fire attached to the Mu family's inherited martial soul, the purple-eyed dragon king. This flame is called purple crystal fire, which is a product of the combination of spiritual and soul power. It can not only burn the soul power and body of soul masters, but also the spirit and soul of soul masters. Its power can be described as very powerful. The purple-eyed dragon king can only be considered good in terms of physical body compared to other dragon martial souls, but the reason why it can be evaluated as one of the most powerful sub-dragon species is because it has possessed super strong spiritual power and innate ability to control this spiritual purple fire since its birth. Also, because they were close to the sea, the ancestors of the Mu family had an advantage over ordinary soul masters in the sea due to the powerful spiritual power attached to their martial souls. In addition, purple crystal fire was already able to counter the water attribute of the sea soul beast, and the combination of the two allowed the Mu family to fish like fish in the sea. Mu Yun opened his right hand and pointed his sharp 5 fingers at the black whale glue in his left heart. In the next moment, the fingertips of the dragon claws were covered with a layer of purple flames, and the temperature inside the room suddenly rose in the blink of an eye as this flame appeared. As the cold light rose, a sudden flash of cold light flashed across the black whale glue inside the room. In the next moment, the black whale glue was easily cut into a small piece and then caught by Mu Yun's right dragon claw. As for the remaining part, it has been quickly packed into the soul guide box by Mu Yun to keep its remaining effects from dissipating. Mu Qing looked at the small piece of whale glue held by his father in his right hand. With the continuous burning of purple fire in his palm, the rough black substance on the surface of the whale glue began to dissolve, and a unique fragrance began to permeate the room. As the sweet scent enveloped the room, Mu Zhuiyun still maintained a caressing posture, and an invisible soul power shield began to spread from his body towards the outside, tightly enveloping the bedroom for a moment without letting any scent escape. Another minute passed, and as the temperature of the purple flame in Mu Yun's palm continued to rise, the whale gum also began to gradually melt. The sweet scent mixed with a faint fishy smell became even stronger in the room, and the whale gum in his palm had completely transformed from a solid to a pure golden paste. Upon smelling the fragrance emanating from the whale glue inside the room, Mu Qing's body began to gradually heat up, and his blood began to flow faster. "Shao Qing, open your mouth." Before Mu Qing could continue to savor it, with Mu Yun's command, as Mu Qing opened his mouth, whale glue had already been accurately thrown into the former's mouth by Mu Yun. "Close your eyes and rest assured, concentrate your attention, and guard your mind. The process may be painful, but you must persevere." Mu Qing nodded without a trace, and now he had no intention of replying to his father. After the entrance of the whale gel, which shimmered with pure golden light, the creamy whale gel melted like butter when it met a hot pot. In just one breath, it melted and melted at the entrance. Its soft and tender intestines flowed down Mu Qing's throat into every corner of his body. The strong fishy smell began to explode in Mu Qing's mouth, and the pungent smell constantly pounded his nose and nerves, but what made him most uncomfortable was not these. With the passage of time, his body seemed to be thrown into the flames, scorching, painful, and endless pain began to spread in his muscles and bones, just like crossing the flame mountain in the dog days, scorching and unbearable. The tearing sensation from his muscles made his scalp tingle, and Mu Qing tightly pursed his lips, fully absorbing the heat flow inside his body. His martial soul began to involuntarily attach itself, emitting a light golden light all over his body. Outside, the three standing indoors watched as Mu Qing sat cross-legged on the bed, but his body slowly became bright and transparent. The body bones below the flesh are clearly visible, and the martial soul, like a golden body, exudes dragon power and unparalleled dominance with the dragon pattern on the surface of each bone, filling the entire room with unparalleled sharpness. What a powerful martial soul, this sense of oppression, even the old dragon from Tianmu is far apart. Mu Zhuiyun's eyes flickered, completely focused on the martial soul revealed on Mu Qing's body. After feeling the oppressive power of Mu Qing's martial soul on his own at close range, he became even more convinced that if the Mu family wanted to remain prosperous, the answer lay with Mu Qing. This is the kylin from the Mu family bestowed by heaven. As long as Mu Qing can grow up and successfully break through the tidal dolua, he believes that no one can match the strength of Mu Qing. At that time, even the 99-level extreme dolua may not be the end point for Mu Qing. Perhaps he can really reach a higher level and complete another great miracle in the past 10,000 years, maybe. Mu Qing gritted his teeth tightly, with sweat on his forehead and a hint of ferocity on his tender cheeks. Especially on the surface of his skin, countless blood vessels and veins sprouted up, like dragons swimming within his skin. His spine crackled like a dragon about to revive, and every bone on his spine shimmered with pure golden light. Under the entanglement of dragon stripes, the sharp aura constantly surrounded the room, and the abundant boiling blood and energy continued to strengthen on Mu Qing's body. Mu Qing's Tianmu martial soul automatically began to possess, and under the guidance of the martial soul, he began to observe his own body. Without looking or knowing, when he followed the martial soul into his body for the first time, a dazzling skeleton with a faint golden light immediately caught his eye. The bones are covered in dense golden dragon patterns, majestic and imposing, and a sense of domineering and unparalleled suddenly hits the face. With just a simple glance, Mu Qing could clearly feel the hardness and strength of his bones. The sharp and invincible feeling deeply shook his heart and soul. Paired with the ultimate sharpness of the ultimate gold attached to Mu Qing's holy bone martial soul, the sharpness was unparalleled, like the majestic momentum that could shatter everything in the world. For the first time, Mu Qing felt that his second martial soul was so powerful. Is this my martial soul? Holy bone. Holy bone, sure enough, this name is not called wrong. Mu Qing was shocked by his martial soul. It was the first time in a few days that he had looked inside his body. With the flow of whale glue, the pure golden whale glue had been absorbed by his bones and skin, and the burning sensation inside his body gradually dissipated. Mu Qing's internal energy and blood remained irritable, and every bone on his body shone with dazzling golden light. The dragon patterns shone brightly, and the golden light burst forth, echoing each other, unparalleled, leaving behind an incredibly fulfilling power. As the last trace of whale glue was completely absorbed and digested by his body, turning into his own heritage, the boiling blood on his body gradually subsided, and his domineering and sharp momentum slowly withdrew. Mu Qing slowly opened his eyes. In an instant, a purple golden light flashed through the room. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Discussion. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Discussion. The purple and gold eyes, each with a dragon pattern, gradually dissipated. He extended his hands and felt the sticky surface of his skin, with a strong odor filling his body surface. Underneath the flesh and blood, qi and blood were like dragons, and bone marrow was like mercury. The powerful power of blood vessels made his body feel waves of comfort. He knew that he had just gone through a creation that was comparable to washing the marrow and cutting the scriptures, expelling the impurities from his body in order to refine a scale-free body. After absorbing whale glue, every aspect of his body has been greatly improved. Not only the bones, although most of the whale glue is absorbed by one's own bones, the bones are already connected to the flesh and blood. The strengthening of the bones also drives the strengthening of the muscles and meridians of the flesh, allowing the latter to adapt to the increased density and strength of the sacred bones. Although Mu Qing's body does not have a geometric multiple like that of bones, it can rapidly enhance under the influence of dragon lines and golden light on the surface of the bones. According to Mu Qing's own estimation, it will take a few more days for his body to fully adapt to the strength of the holy bone surge, and his qi and blood will rapidly increase accordingly. However, after fully absorbing the whale gel, it is estimated that he will need to wait for half a month to absorb the external soul bone. He can feel his body's strength, speed, defense, explosive power, and so on, all of which have been comprehensively broken through and improved. To put it more specifically, his power is no longer weaker than that of the ordinary power-type soul lord. A 6-year-old child who has not yet obtained a soul ring is actually no weaker than the soul lord of the third ring in terms of physical fitness. If such a thing were to be told outside, no one would believe it. But reality is still in front of us, making us have to face it. Mu Zhuiyun grabbed his white long beard, and the wrinkles on his smiling face could kill more than 10 mosquitoes. Mu Yun and Xueyu had already embraced each other, with 4 eyes fixed on Mu Qing. The muddy eyes were filled with pride. Ha ha ha, all right, I would like to announce that in the future, Mu Qing will be nurtured by the entire family at no cost. Remember, it's not worth the cost, even if the family's accumulated foundation of thousands of years is completely depleted, we must cultivate Shaoqing. Mu Zhuiyun laughed heartily and said, Shaoqing will be the pillar of our Mu family's future for hundreds of years. The future of our Mu family depends on Shaoqing, and this matter cannot be careless. Nowadays, the situation on the mainland is turbulent, and this over 100-year-old man naturally stands tall enough to see further. He naturally understands that the arrival of war will not be too far away. Although the Mu family is now the lord of Aolai city and the Duke of Purple Dragon, this is only the weakest of the Doling Empire, the 4 major empires. The future war will not be too far away, and the ambitious Sun and Moon Empire has never stopped developing and expanding. Even if the royal family is deeply tied to the Mu family, it is inevitable that other provinces will not be swaying their minds. Upon hearing the words of his own big shot, Mu Yun couldn't help but step forward with joy and say, "Okay, okay. Actually, I had planned this way a long time ago, but there are too many elders in my family, and I, as the head of the family, can't let my temper run wild. And a lot of information about Qing can only be spread among the three of us. With your words now, I can rest assured. The Mu family has developed in Aolai city for thousands of years, and naturally has a main lineage and a branch lineage. The main lineage is the legitimate heir of the Duke's mansion, who will later lead the entire Aolai city. The branch lineage is the elders of the family, who have the right to speak and vote on how the family will develop in the future, and each elder is at least a soul saint. Mu Zhuyan's eyes were fixed on Mu Qing all along, and when he heard him speak, he was not too surprised. His face was always a faint smile, and he felt extremely satisfied in his heart. Don't be surprised by flattery or disgrace, don't stir up the waves. I will inform the other old guys one by one. As for Xiaoqing's martial soul, you can announce it to the public first. By the way, have you ever thought of which martial soul Xiaoqing will first cultivate? Both of Mu Qing's martial souls are ontology martial souls. In theory, developing either one at first has its advantages and disadvantages, but they cannot be practiced together, otherwise it is easy to explode, and one must make a choice. We have already thought of this. At this moment, Xueyu took the conversation and said, Xiaoqing had already told me yesterday that he chose Tianmu as the first cultivator. Seeing the reflection on the face of his own boss, Mu Yun continued, Tianmu is not only Xiaoqing's physical martial soul, but also a spiritual martial soul. As you know, spiritual soul beasts are extremely rare, and high-quality ones are even more difficult. Even though sea soul beasts are much more numerous than those on the mainland, the difficulty of finding them is not low. And there is a great possibility that the outer soul bone contains the soul ring of the water kylin. This soul ring, which is even higher in quality than ordinary real dragons, is absolutely top-notch in all aspects. Once absorbed, it can definitely obtain an incredibly powerful soul skill, which is likely to be the last remaining kylin in the mainland. There may never be a more suitable first soul ring for Mu Qing in the world than this. After listening to Mu Yun's analysis, Mu Zhuyan's elderly face also showed a touch of emotion, and he immediately said, Is water kylin? Good luck. Alright, let's do as you say. Anyway, you are now the head of the Mu family and the father of Xiaoqing. As long as you have a sense of propriety in your heart, I won't say much. Mu Yun quickly nodded, and the smile on his face never stopped from beginning to end. The things he had experienced in the past few days were definitely the most beautiful and happy except for his wedding day. Even in the 10,000-year history of Dolua continent, the talent of his own son is extremely rare. With twin martial souls, innate full soul power, and ultimate attributes, combined with these conditions, Mu Yun is very clear that as long as his son's talent is exposed, what kind of madness will the superpowers of the continent, such as the Sea God Pavilion of Shrek Academy in the Ontology sect, fall into? That is definitely the cornerstone of a sect, the future towering white jade pillar, the sea purple golden beam. Of course, Mu Yun is not against Mu Qing joining these superpowers, and he even believes that it is inevitable for Mu Qing to join Shrek Academy in the future. Because entering Shrek to study, or ultimately joining forces like Shrek or the Ontology sect, does not hinder the development of the Mu family in the future, and can even rely on a big tree for shade and take it to the next level. As for which of these two forces to let his own son join, although both of the awakened martial souls of his own son are Ontology martial souls, joining the Ontology sect may be better. Mu Yun actually hopes that his own son will join Shrek in his heart. Mu Yun, who had entered Shrek's inner courtyard, knew that the Sea God Pavilion had countless connections with the gods, and there were definitely secrets and opportunities that ordinary people could not imagine inside. Even Mu Yun had only entered it once or twice. By relying on his own talent, his own son could at least become a member of the future Sea God Pavilion as long as he joined in. According to Mu Yun's estimation, his assistance to future cultivation may not be worse than that of going to the ontology sect, and may even be better. After all, Shrek is a gathering place for almost all the geniuses on the mainland, where the talents of Shaoqing can be fully utilized. Working behind closed doors is always the stupidest way. Only by facing more geniuses and seeing a wider world can one understand where their limits lie. After explaining the matter to Mu Zhuoyun, he turned around and left. Mu Yun and Xueyu did not linger in Mu Qing's room much, but only taught each other the meditation method passed down by the Mu family before leaving. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. First Soul Ring. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. First Soul Ring. A month later, in a secret room of the Mu family. Mu Qing, with short white hair, sat quietly in the center of the secret room, with Mu Yun, Xueyu, and Mu Zhuoyun standing beside him. The three of them remained silent, their eyes fixed on Mu Qing, who was absorbing the external soul bone ahead. The blue and gold false face soul bone suspended above Mu Qing's head, accompanied by the surge of soul power on Mu Qing's body, gradually blending with the soul power contained on the soul bone. A gentle wave that entered the water began to flow towards Mu Qing's body. Buzz. At the moment of the fusion of soul power, the soul bone began to rotate rapidly, and a blue and gold light burst out from the soul bone. Mu Qing's body was illuminated by the light and pulled out a long shadow, which extended all the way to the wall behind him. As the soul bone on top of his head spun rapidly, an illusory Kirin phantom appeared from the soul bone. Dragon head, elk body, lion eyes, dragon scales, ox tail, agile body, majestic figure. At the moment when this blue phantom appeared, a peaceful and auspicious aura emerged, and the vitality of heaven and earth in the secret room boiled, as if summoned by a mother. Water Qilin. Xueyu and Mu Yun exclaimed in surprise when they saw the phantom beast shadow suddenly appearing on their soul bones. Is this the water Kirin? Mu Zhuoyun squinted his eyes slightly and looked at the strange beast shadow in front of him, his soul power and spiritual power fluctuating towards the surroundings. After a while, with a spiritual response, Mu Zhuoyun couldn't help but exclaim, indeed, it is truly an auspicious beast. Its bloodline aura is truly extraordinary. Even the moment it appeared, the surrounding heaven and earth energy was stirred up. This is the first time I have seen such a powerful bloodline soul beast. Moreover, this soul beast, as described in history, has no malicious intent towards humans. It is simply unbelievable. The relationship between soul beasts and soul masters, to put it simply, is the relationship between hunters and prey. The contradiction between them is fundamentally irreconcilable. If soul masters want to be strong, they must hunt soul beasts to obtain soul rings. If soul beasts want to protect themselves and seek survival, they must constantly become stronger and fight against human soul masters. Over the years, both sides have lost too many lives as a result. This is natural selection, and the laws of nature cannot be changed by human labor. This concept has long been buried in the subconscious of both parties, so it is incredible that 10,000 years ago Tang Hao and Tang San were able to win the hearts of 200,000-year-old transformed soul beasts and combine with them. If soul beasts are so easy to get along with, they can easily let go of hatred and temptation towards each other. There have long been precedents of humans and transformed soul beasts combining on the mainland. But since the birth of the soul master, only the father and son of the Tang family can be clearly recorded in history. So at this moment, Mu Zhuoyun, an elderly man over 100 years old, who has already had a lot of life experience in many things in the world, is titled Doluo. Faced with a soul beast like the Qilin, which is so friendly to humans, and even has no malicious presence on his whole body, it is difficult not to be moved. The Qilin is so powerful, even stronger than ordinary real dragons at the same level, but it is such a powerful race that ultimately went extinct for a reason. Human beings are much more terrifying than soul beasts. Mu Qing didn't know what was happening outside, but he still maintained his posture and his soul power surged towards his soul bone uncontrollably. In the secret room, the Kirin phantom above Mu Qing's head stared at him for a while, seeming to be scrutinizing. His agile eyes swayed, seeming to be contemplating, as if a wisdom light different from that of ordinary soul beasts flowed and flickered in the eyes of the lions. At the next moment, amidst the onlookers, the Kirin void suddenly began to howl in the sky. The long howling sound was clear and strong, but strangely, there was no hint of regret or sadness in the voice. The three people on the side could even hear a hint of relief and joy from this sound. Some three people who were confused dared not act rashly and could only stand in place to observe the scene. With the long roar of the Qilin, the blue and gold light flowed on the virtual shadow of the water Qilin, and the dragon scales on the surface of its body began to tremble violently, as if accumulating something. Buzz. At the next moment, a purple soul ring with a hint of blue patterns quickly rose from the Qilin's body and quickly pulled towards Mu Qing's body underneath. At the moment when the soul ring appeared, the water Qilin seemed to have completed its mission. The phantom blurred for an instant and then returned to its original state. In the void, it lightly stepped on the space with its limbs, and the silky, water-like waves of turbulence surrounded the secret room. With steps that seemed to be venting, passionate, and dancing, the water Qilin transformed into a droplet of water and sank into the eyebrow of the suspended external soul bone above Mu Qing's head. A golden Qilin pattern emerged along with it. What a magical sight! Xueyu held her hands tightly on her chest, completely attracted by the last move of the water Kirin just now, like a dream illusion. Mu Qing heard the roar of the Qilin, but before he could open his eyes, he felt a sudden warm current coming from himself. That was a gentle and incomparable energy torrent, different from the heat of whale glue. When this energy suddenly entered his body, it was like rippling lake water, like a completely tamed little dog able to follow his thoughts and actions freely, completely without the pain of absorbing soul rings as described by his parents before entering the secret room. Not only did he not feel touched or painful, but he even felt a bit comfortable wanting to shout out. This feeling is like, I've been exercising with my father for a whole day, exhausted from washing up and returning to my room, having the maid pick my ears, massage my limbs, and relax my muscles, just wanting to take a breath. Under Mu Qing's tightly closed eyelids, his purple and gold eyes, each with a dragon pattern, automatically possessed themselves. A strong soul power flowed out from the purple soul ring, and a cool and comfortable energy constantly floated towards his eyes, gradually being absorbed by them. Puzzy. A faint shattering sound echoed inside Mu Qing's body, accompanied by the continuous contraction of his soul ring. In an instant, Mu Qing's momentum began to strengthen. Mu Qing knew that he had almost absorbed the soul ring at this moment, and his soul power had also broken through. The feeling of Fulin's heart was very wonderful. It was like breaking through some kind of shackles, like a fish entering the sea without being constrained. Half an hour later, the purple soul ring with a hint of blue patterns slowly began to contract on Mu Qing's body as time passed, and was absorbed into his body by Mu Qing. With it comes a rapid increase in soul power and a rapid growth in spiritual power. Mu Qing's eyes were tightly closed, and the purple and golden light covered by his eyelids kept flashing in his eyes. The two golden dragon patterns shone brightly, full of vitality, as if they were about to transform into two real golden dragons and fly high into the sky. After absorbing soul rings, soul masters will experience a comprehensive improvement, not only in soul power, but also in physical fitness and spirit to a greater or lesser extent. Of course, for spiritual soul masters, after absorbing soul beast soul rings with spiritual attributes, the improvement of spiritual power is definitely the greatest. The water Qilin is a powerful soul beast with the ultimate quality in all aspects, not inferior to the same level of true dragons. Whether it is physical body, soul power quality, or spiritual power, it is the top among the top, which represents the absorption of this soul ring. Mu Qing's improvement is comprehensive and can reach the top level. At the moment when Mu Qing's soul ring was absorbed into his body, his soul power, which had already been at level 10, finally began to rapidly increase. His not-so-tall body emitted a strong wave of mixed soul and spiritual power. In the secret room, the three people standing on the side breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that Mu Qing had finally absorbed his soul ring. Okay, we've finally completed the first step, and the rest will be much easier. Mu Yun smiled and said, his stiff face full of uncontrollable smiles. Alright, everyone is so old and uncertain. They are all members of the Mu family, just like when they were young. Mu Zhuiyun spoke to Mu Yun with a stern expression, but his gaze remained on Mu Qing, who was working hard to adapt to the rapid growth of his strength. At this moment, this elderly man, who was already over 100 years old, was wearing a title Dolua with exhausted potential. His old heart was relieved and his mood was relaxed. Mu Yun didn't care about it either. He was older and stronger than him, so there was nothing he could do. His arms couldn't twist his thighs, so he could only listen honestly. I'll take a step away first. As parents, you can stay here and watch the rest. After a few days, let Shaoqing master his breakthrough strength. Remember to discuss with me about the cultivation plan for the future. After speaking, Mu Zhuiyun took a last glance at Mu Qing, turned around, and left the Chamber of Secrets, his eyes filled with anticipation for Mu Qing's future. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Mutations. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Mutations. At this moment, Mu Qing is striving to feel his rapidly growing soul and spiritual power. In just a short moment, his soul power had already surpassed level 10, continuously crossing levels 11 and 12, all the way to level 14, and his speed had not slowed down, still rising at a very fast pace. Not only soul power, but also spiritual power. At this moment, Mu Qing's spirit was like a ship sailing in the sea, finding a harbor. His spiritual sea had already shown signs of opening up the spiritual sea when the soul ring was inserted into his body. Should it be said that it is truly the soul ring of the Kylin? Even though it has only been around 5,000 years of cultivation, the quality of soul power and extremely pure spiritual power contained in the soul ring cannot be compared to even an ordinary 10,000-year soul ring. Soul masters absorb soul rings, and quality is very important. Sometimes the energy contained in a 3,000-year-old dark gold claw bear's soul ring is even stronger than the energy in a high-level soul beast soul ring like a 50-100-year cultivation flame lion. And the soul ring like the water Qilin is even more exaggerated. Simply put, it means that Mu Qing has absorbed an Emperor Tian who has been cultivating for 5,000 years. As a beast god with over 800,000 years of cultivation and the leader of the Black Dragon clan, Emperor Tian surpasses the ultimate combat power of Dolua, and his pure true dragon bloodline is undoubtedly the fundamental reason for his dominance in the soul beast world. At this time, what Mu Qing had accomplished was equivalent to absorbing a soul ring produced by the emperor during the 50-100-year period. It can be imagined how exaggerated the soul power possessed by such a powerful soul ring is. Finally, when the energy in the last trace of the soul ring was completely absorbed by Mu Qing, the continuously growing aura on his body gradually stopped. Opening his eyes, Mu Qing stood up excitedly, clenched his fists, and felt the explosive power and exaggerated physical strength inside his body, giving birth to a deep sense of pride. I'm so strong. Mu Qing's mouth curved as he felt his current soul power. He chuckled lightly and said, I've already reached level 16. I've directly increased my soul power by level 6. It's like a joke. Mu Qing stood in place, excitedly dancing with his hands and feet. If it weren't for his parents standing by, he would even want to perform a dance on the spot to celebrate. He knew that there was not only the enormous energy contained in the soul ring, but also related to the 80,000-year-old whale gel, which made his meridians and body reach a very saturated state and then burst out, which led to a surge of soul power. Mu Yun and Shuiyu smiled at their aunt and stood on the side, looking at Mu Qing, who was trapped in excitement and unable to extricate himself. They didn't choose to disturb him. Not only did Mu Qing feel happy, but as parents, their level of joy was not much lower than that of Mu Qing. After Mu Qing's emotions gradually turned around and calmed down, he heard his mother's gentle voice like water. "Xiao Qing, don't be too happy too early. There are still soul bones left. When you finish the last step and get excited." Xueyu spoke and walked up, taking Mu Qing's hand and gently patting it in her palm. Looking at her handsome and extraordinary son, her pride almost overflowed in her heart. Speaking of which, it is also a great celebration. As a princess of the Doling Empire, she did not inherit the royal inheritance of the martial soul swan, but mutated into a top-level martial soul like the bone dragon, which gave her the opportunity to marry Mu Yun and give birth to the precious son in front of her. The Mu family is in charge of the entire Aolai city and does not need to pay taxes. They can also train their own private fleet to resist sea soul beasts, which is similar to China. However, the difference is that the Mu family only has this city. Although it covers a large area and is very wealthy, it still does not have the ability to rebel. And Xueyu, who had been married to Mu Yun since childhood, naturally knew her future situation. He did not resist, and even had a deeper affection for Mu Yun than everyone had imagined, because the two had known each other since childhood and graduated from Shrek together. It can be said that Xueyu's affection for Mu Yun was not mixed with too many political factors. Now, she only wants to accompany her husband well and raise her son to grow up. Now seeing Mu Qing's exceptional talent, Xueyu naturally breathed a sigh of relief in her heart. In this way, even if there were any future disturbances in the empire, Mu Qing and the Mu family would be able to sit firmly on the fishing platform. Mu Yun didn't think too much at that time. At this moment, the well-known Duke of Purple Dragon was full of joy. It was a great thing to see his son perform even better than him, who was a father. After all, looking forward to his son becoming a successful father is always the most anticipated thing for parents. Now there is an unprecedented hidden dragon in my family, still my own son. This sense of joy is like a child who became the top scorer in the college entrance examination and was admitted to the north of China. This is something that can bring glory to our ancestors. Mu Qing nodded slightly, then sat down again, picked up the soul bone next to him and pressed it against his forehead, beginning to absorb it. The false face soul bone, as an external soul bone, does not occupy the 6 soul bone positions of the soul master. Moreover, based on the shape and absorption position of this bone, it can almost be determined that it has greatly improved the spiritual power absorbed by Mu Qing. At the moment when the soul bone was pressed against his forehead, Mu Qing's whole body shook, and an inexplicable sense of joy and strong desire emerged from the bottom of his heart. Mu Qing felt a strange sensation in this scene. The holy bone martial soul involuntarily began to attach itself, and a pale golden light shone in Mu Qing's body. A thick and powerful dragon power instantly spread to every corner of the secret room. How could the holy bone martial soul have such a great desire for soul bones? Mu Qing was a bit puzzled, and he could only speculate that this might be related to the fact that the martial soul was his own bone. Absorbing the soul bone was to merge this bone with his own bone, and he didn't know if it would have any special effect on his martial soul. The blue and golden soul bone began to be enveloped by Mu Qing's soul and spiritual power, and the golden holy bone wrapped around the dragon pattern, constantly shaking inside Mu Qing's body, as if summoning this blue and golden soul bone. The fusion of soul bones is very easy, even easier than the process of fusing soul rings. The entire process ended in less than half an hour, and it went smoothly beyond expectations. Perhaps it is because I have already absorbed the soul ring that I have the aura of a water unicorn on my body, which makes this soul bone have no intention of rejecting or resisting me. Alternatively, because my martial soul is my entire body bone, there is no special auxiliary effect on the absorption of soul bones. Anyway, the entire process is as simple as drinking water, and there is no accident. At the moment when the soul bone was completely absorbed, a shocking scene occurred. The blue and gold fake face soul bone merged into Mu Qing's bone, and the dragon pattern on the surface of the bone began to shine brightly, complementing the blue and gold light emitted by the soul bone. The gold and blue-green colors quickly merged together, and the fake face soul bone quickly merged into the bones of Mu Qing's face as if it had changed from solid to liquid. A few minutes later, when the soul bone was finally fully absorbed, a stunning scene occurred. Mu Qing's body suddenly began to shimmer with golden light, and this time the bones inside were no longer hidden beneath the skin and flesh, but were constantly wriggling and changing, gradually emerging from Mu Qing's body on the surface. Mu Yun and Shuiyu were shocked by this scene. They had no idea what it meant, but as a high-level soul master, the couple used their excellent spiritual power to investigate and found that Mu Qing's mental state was very stable and even had a continuous strengthening trend. They didn't worry too much, thinking that this was just a special change in Mu Qing's martial soul after absorbing the external soul bone of the water kylin. Mu Qing felt a slight itching in his body, and under his spiritual gaze, he could feel the special changes in his bones. Not only did he absorb the soul bones, but his overall bone strength, toughness, and plasticity all increased in all aspects. Even the ultimate gold possessed by the holy bone was enhanced, making its power even stronger and its sharpness even sharper. But after absorbing the soul bone, the holy bone began to wriggle and change from within its own body towards the outside. This trend made Mu Qing a bit confused, as if it was a manifestation of the inherent ability of the martial soul. After some perception, he realized that this phenomenon did not cause any harm to himself, and even intuition told him that there might be a surprise in the future. The speed of change is very fast, and after just a few breaths, this anomaly gradually stops. The golden light on Mu Qing's body gradually dissipated, and a couple in the secret room finally saw the changes in Mu Qing at this moment. However, the scene that appeared in front of the couple widened their eyes. End of this chapter.